Hi, everyone.
We're
Hi.
live? Are we live? Can we see us?
We are live.
Yay. We are live. We've managed to go live once again.
Yay!
Good
It's a
evening,
miracle every
everybody.
time.
It's a Christmas miracle.
We're always crossing our fingers.
That's
But
right.
happy Monday evening and happy holidays. Thank you for joining us for our Friends in Fiction Book Club discussion with Kristy, Woodson Harvey, and Christmas
Yay.
Love. Yay. I'm Brenda Gardner, and I'm joined by my wonderful co-host, Lisa Harrison, who's holding up the book. And of course,
Hi, everyone.
Kristy Woodson Harvey.
Oh, I was muted. I'm talking and muted. Thank you all so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and just to get to talk about this book with you guys. This is perfect timing.
We're really excited too, because Christmas in Peachtree Bluff for readers was sort of a much clamored for but surprise next series in the Murphy family lives. So we are just really excited to talk about it. But first, I wanted to introduce, for those who aren't as familiar with Kristy Woodson Harvey, I wanted to introduce you. Kristy's the New York Times, USA Today, and Publishers Weekly best-selling author of 9 novels. Behave yourself, Lisa, including Under the Southern Sky, the Peachtree Bluff series, and the forthcoming The Wedding Veil. Kristy is the winner of the Lucy Bramlett Patterson Award for Excellence in Creative Writing, a finalist for the Southern Book Prize, and her work has been optioned for film, more on that later, and her books have received numerous accolades. She also blogs with her mom, Beth Woodson, on Design Chic about creating a beautiful home. But we know her best, of course, as one of the Fab Four, founder and co-host of our treasured Friends in Fiction, podcaster and tourer extraordinaire. Welcome, Kristy.
Oh, thank you. I love that introduction. Thank you, Brenda and Lisa, for having me tonight and for taking time out of your really busy Christmas week to hang out with me. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, we are so excited to have you, and thank you for taking time to be with us. And especially, I think Brenda might want to bring up something. I feel like there's some news or something we might want to discuss.
Yeah, well, that was a pretty good segue, but I wanted to see if Kristy would talk with us about her announcement that I believe this is the first time you've done an appearance since the big news about Peachtree Bluff. So would you share it with all of us?
Yes. So I am so excited because I finally got to announce on, gosh, what day was it? Last Thursday, that my Peachtree Bluff series is being adapted for TV by NBC. So I'm super excited.
Yay.
And we've been working on this for a really long time. I was telling the ladies backstage before we came on that the producers that are working on this show actually optioned it. I think back when Southern Side of Paradise came out in 2019. So it's been a long time coming. It's been a really great ride. The only, not that anything's a silver lining of COVID, but I've gotten to be really involved with the project because everyone was working remotely because of COVID. So I actually got to be involved in, all of the pitching and am one of the writers of the pilot, which is really great. And we'll get to be a co-executive producer, and it's just really exciting. So it's been really cool to watch it come to life. I've met just some amazing people and gotten really close with this really brilliant team that's working on bringing this to your TV screens. So hopefully that will be happening.
Yay, that is so exciting. I was so excited when I saw the news.
I can't believe it. And it was so funny because,
year.
Just even knowing that it's been going on for a long time, seeing the announcement was like, okay, this is real, okay, it's out in the world. Like we can talk about it. It's, happening. I mean, it was just a totally different thing for it to be out in the world. And I don't think I have ever had a response to anything quite like I did that announcement. I was not prepared for it, to be honest. Like I just was really overwhelmed and honored that people were so excited. It was just like this sort of outpouring of love, and it made me so happy that people we're so excited to see this come to life in a new way. So I'm very grateful to everybody out there for sharing the love. And you guys were like Johnny on the spot. You shared it right away. So thank you for that.
Well, it's funny. Oh, go ahead, Lisa.
I was just going to say that you deserve all the praise, and we are so excited. All the book club members are so excited. But where were you? Like, walk us through the day, like that day. Where were you when you found out that it was out in the world?
So this was crazy. We had been, I think it was right around the time that Christmas in Peachtree Bluff came out. We had actually kind of made this deal. And I remember the dates because this is so funny because it was getting ready to go on tour for Under the Southern Sky. So we kind of made the deal with NBC like right around then. So it was like late April. And I remember being panicked that we were going to be writing while I was on book tour, and that was going to be really hard. And the hilarious thing is we actually didn't start writing until I was on tour for Christmas in Peachtree Bluff. So the whole time I was on tour for Christmas in Peachtree Bluff, I was like running back to hotel rooms to like, write or get on Zooms or co-write or whatever we were doing. So it was crazy. I will never forget that as long as I live, because I always think being on tour is like the max that I could like I'm so maxed out, like I could never do anything else. So I was like, oh, that's actually not true, because now I know. But there wasn't a choice, like that, those were the deadlines and that's what it was. And so, but so we'd been working on it, and right around the time Christmas in Peachtree Bluff came out, we all had our deals in place. And so I thought, okay, I muted me. Oh no. Everybody was, sorry, I totally forgot what I was gonna say. Oh, okay. So we thought the announcement was gonna come out right when the book came out. And I was like, oh, this is perfect timing. This is so great. And then it didn't come out, and it didn't come out, and it didn't come out. And I was actually, last Thursday night, I was sitting in the parking lot at school, and I was on a call, like on a Zoom, like in the car with my light on, like taking notes. We were getting script notes from the studio. And so like the whole team was on the phone together, and all of a sudden, like everyone's phones went off. It was just really funny. And and the deadline article had come out. And of course, in their world, everybody was seeing it, everybody was seeing it all at once. And I was so surprised, like when I got out of the pageant, how many people that I was like Facebook friends with or knew on Instagram or whatever were like in that TV world and had already seen it before I had like shared it or anything. So It was super exciting. It just made it feel real. It's like we've been doing this kind of secret project for all these months and years, and it just made it seem like it was finally happening. And doing all that during COVID was definitely, it added like a layer to it of, I don't know if this is really feasible right now. And of course, there were a lot of pitches that we did when people came back to us and they were like, we love this, but can you come back to us because we're not filming right now, or we've used our budget, or, whatever it may be. Nice nose, I guess is what you would say. So it felt like it all worked out. So great.
It's just so exciting.
That is exciting. Please let me know if you can hear me.
I can hear you.
Okay, good. We had an issue there for a moment.
Okay.
Well, it's funny, Kristy, because I saw it on my news feed on my phone first, and I'm like, what? So of course I had to immediately go to Facebook, which was starting to catch on, and I'm sure you blew up there too.
Well, it was really fun, and it was fun too because my parents were here for Will's Christmas pageant, so we kind of all got to celebrate. But it was so funny because it was like I found out, and they were all like already in church, so like I was the announcement. It was just really funny. It was not like what you would have expected, that moment to be like, but it was kind of funny. It made it more memorable for sure.
Oh my goodness.
Brenda sent me a screenshot and just said, oh my goodness, have you seen this? And I was traveling and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. So then I went on Instagram, and it was, my entire feed was just full of so much love for you, and everybody's so excited. I was like, oh my gosh, this is the best Christmas gift.
It definitely was. It was a really, really good one. It was a really good one.
Oh, that's awesome.
No.
Well, I tell you what, that is just such great news. But I did want to cover one more thing before. I know eventually we're going to get to actual discussion about
Oh, the book. Oh, yeah, that thing.
yeah, maybe a little bit, but there was
We
something
just want to
else,
talk to Kristy.
right?
It's great. I just want to talk to you guys too. So we're good.
Because the other thing that I wanted to talk to you about is you did this town takeover that I thought was the coolest thing, and I'm going to share. Of course, now it's not on my feed for me to share, but you did this town takeover, and there's a nice file about that. Could you talk about that a little bit and
Absolutely.
how it came to be?
Yeah, so this was really fun. So some of you guys might have heard me say before that Peachtree Bluff is based on Beaufort, North Carolina, where I live. And that for a variety of reasons. I originally was writing the book set in Beaufort, and just for a variety of reasons, my publishing house wanted me to write something set in Georgia. So I was like, okay, well, I'll make up this town. Yeah, there it is.
Yay!
I'll make up this town, and it'll be based on Beaufort. And it just is a town that I really fell in love with, and I was hoping that people would kind of fall in love with it too. It's a really quaint little spot. And when The Southern Side of Paradise came out, my husband and my publicist actually were walking through town one morning getting coffee, and this was their brainchild. They were like, Christy should do tours of Peachtree Bluff and have signs everywhere. And I was like, and so they told me, they came home, they were like, we have the best idea. And I was like, no, I'm not no, like, I can't do that. That's way too big. Like, how would people find out about it? How would people get here? Like, what? I can't even wrap my mind around that. And so I do a lot of work with Beaufort Historic Site. They do a lot of events for me. I'm on their board. Like, I really love their organization, and we do a lot together. And one of the coolest things they do is they have, as you can see in this picture, this old red double-decker bus. It's a bus, brought over from England. It's really cool, like all the signs and stuff inside of it. But so they do tours around town of the history of Beaufort. And so my publicist, called the director of BHA and said, we think Kristy should do this. And she was like, great idea. And she's one of those people that like takes a small idea and turns it into something so gigantic that you like sort of have a panic attack about it. Like, that's just her personality. And she just does it effortlessly. And she was like, great. So we'll have coffee with Coffee Kyle's, and then we'll have a bus tour, and then we'll have a luncheon, and then we'll have another bus tour, and then we'll have a cocktail party, and then we'll have a dinner. And I mean, it just went crazy. Like, it was amazing. Everything sold out, and people came. I mean, there were people from all over that came to this thing. I remember these ladies that had driven from Texas and just being like,
Oh, wow.
I just like gobsmacked. And there was a town a few hours away that was like, if we can bring, like, how many people do we have to bring to get our own Peachtree Bluff tour? And it was just this thing that kind of took off, and it was amazing. And the parties were just beautiful and over the top, and everyone had such a good time. And it was just like this perfect kind of weekend. And in my mind at the time, the perfect way to end Peachtree Bluff, because it was like the last event on my Southern Side of Paradise tour. And it was amazing. So then, of course, people had fun. I had a great time. And people would say, when's the next Peachtree Bluff town tour? And I'd be like, oh, there's not going to be another one because I'm not writing any more Peachtree Bluff. And so immediately when I said I'm writing this Christmas in Peachtree Bluff, they were like, great, when are we doing the town takeover? And at that point, they're so good. I mean, they did almost everything, but it was so fun. And it coincided with our Christmas candlelight tour this year, which is one of my favorite events of the year. And everywhere in town has luminaries, and all the houses are lit up, and there's a homes tour. And so we did a couple of Peachtree Bluff bus tours, and there were a couple of luncheons, and there was a really beautiful wine dinner. And it was just a whole thing. We just had a grand time. And I am always shocked that people show up. I'm like, really? They came, like, people came. But it was.
I'm thinking they're going to come again.
Yeah, they're going to keep coming.
Y'all, we got so lucky because it didn't really occur to me. I know this is going to sound insane when I say this, but like, it just didn't really occur to me. I guess like I had this memory of the last town takeover we did. And of course it was like August and it was like 90 degrees outside. And I wasn't thinking about, it could be 38 and sleeting, I just wasn't thinking about that. And we had some really cold days and we were so lucky. It was 70 on Friday and 72 on Saturday for the bus tours. And I was like, this is crazy. I mean, it was so beautiful. But anyway, we had a ball and I did put together a little thing on my website. My website's KristyWoodsonHarvey.com. And if you go to the blog link, it's like probably the second blog post down. It was what Brenda was showing you. It's a little PDF of all the places that we visited on the town takeover tour. And then just like a little sentence or two about, what they are in the books and how they correspond. And, anyway, it's so fun. And it was so funny too, because you would see people around town being like, people would be in front of my house and they'd be like, what is Jack's house? Like, what are all these signs? It was so funny. I know, it was great. It was great.
That's hilarious. I just put your website in the chat, by the way, for anyone who wants to reference it.
Thank you.
So yeah, that's awesome. I just think that is the neatest thing. And Susan says, by the way, in the chat, that it should be an annual event. So
yeah. I totally agree. I mean, if the TV show, happens, I feel like it's something we would do every year. I really do. Because I think at this point, like how it is, it's like the first time you do something big like that, it's really scary and it's really hard. And then the second time you do it, it's a little easier. And like by the third time, you're like, oh yeah, this is old hat. Like this is no problem.
Well, yeah, you learned something. You learned a lot the first year. And then, so that would be really awesome. I think that might.
And it's funny because it's like, there are things that the first year was super intense because we had so many events per day, like crammed in. And we were like, okay, we can't do that again. Like that was too much. So we kind of spread it out. Like, I think it was like Wednesday through Saturday this year instead of just Friday and Saturday. So that made it a lot more manageable. But then I think we could have structured it a little bit differently. So, third time's the charm. Like by the time we do it again, y'all are going to have to come down.
Oh yeah.
I would love that. It looked so much fun.
I'm already thinking, I hope I can do that because it sounds like a really cool thing. There's a lot of nice comments in the chat too about people who are interested in it.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And Marilyn Rumpf wants to know, will you come back and talk to us about the series when it airs?
You know it. Yeah.
You can have a
wait.
viewing.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing too is, because I'm writing the pilot, like I know what's happening, like it's funny because people will be like, it's going to be different, or like, am I going to recognize it, or blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I can answer all those questions very specifically because, I'm writing it with the team. So that's been fun. So yes, I will definitely be able to come on. I'm excited about casting. So we'll have to do like a little follow-up on all that.
Yeah, there's been some questions about casting too in the chat. And
Coffee Kyle.
That's right. He's okay. So, but what's funny is the most questions I get about casting are Jack. Like everyone wants to know who Jack's going to be, which absolutely cracks me up because like even like younger people are like, okay, but who's gonna play Jack?
Yeah.
It's funny. Oh, lots of hearts coming through.
Yeah.
And the answer is I don't know. The only people that we've had like really reading the books have been like people for Ansley. So there's like a couple of people that, or one person in particular that they sort of had in mind for her to like sign on. But at this point, like no one will read after people start reading the pilot. That'll kind of be when all that happens. So
fun.
Yeah. Well, that is there was so much news for you tonight, Kristy. I mean, NBC and
I know it was like the official announcement. Like how fun is that we got to do that right here on the book club?
And I couldn't think of a better way to have our last book club discussion of the year.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, that's right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I know it's kind of backtracking, but we may have people watching who haven't read the series yet or haven't read Christmas in Peachtree Bluff. So could you give us, Kristy, a summary of the wonderful Christmas book?
Oh, look. I was going to say I had the whole series beside me, but I don't. I'm not telling the truth. There's no secret to Southern Charm over here. Well, okay. So Christmas in Peachtree Bluff is the fourth book in my Peachtree Bluff series, which is a series about three grown sisters who all for very different reasons end up coming back home to live with their mother in this tiny coastal town in Georgia. And at the same time, all these girls come back. A man from the mother's past comes back and he's carrying a big secret. And so this, over the course of the series really sort of reshapes what it means for these women to be a family. And so Christmas in Peachtree Bluff was sort of unexpected. It wasn't something I was planning when I planned the series out, but entered 2020 and I was just getting a lot of requests for more Peachtree Bluff, and I was missing Peachtree Bluff, and I was missing, having this big, fun, over the top Christmas that we always have here in Beaufort. And I thought, well, if we can't live it, I'm going to write it. And this will be perfect. So I'd had this other idea too. A lot of you have heard me talk about Hurricane Florence and all the damage it did to our community and our house. We were out of our house for about 18 months after Florence, and people kept saying, "Oh, but one day I'll write about this. One day I'll write about this." And I was like, "I'm never going to write about this. Like, this is not fun. I don't want to write about this." But as time passed, and everyone kind of has their war story after something like that, and I was so interested mostly in the stories from the people who stayed, like who did not evacuate during this monster hurricane that was not only bad in the moment, but just kept going and going and going. The power was out for, I can't remember, but I seriously think in Beaufort, it was like almost 2 weeks. It was a long time. And there was just a lot, going on around that. And I thought, it would be really fun to write a story about a family that gets stranded on an island during a hurricane. And I just knew that was a Peachtree Bluff book. I mean, I was like, I have to write that about Peachtree Bluff if I'm going to write it. So I just kind of put it on the back burner. But then when I started thinking about maybe writing Christmas in Peachtree Bluff, I mean, I literally went and I Googled like hurricane season in Georgia. And the last day of hurricane season is November 30th, which, if you live in a hurricane prone area, it's very unusual to have a late November hurricane, but it's not impossible. And that's what I was going for. Realistic fiction, but fiction all the same. And so I was like, okay, well, I could make this hurricane. All these girls are coming back home to Peachtree Bluff, all these women and their families coming back home to Peachtree Bluff to see their mother Ansley. At the same time, the storm of the century is approaching Peachtree Bluff, and everyone evacuates. But Vivi, who is Caroline's 15-year-old daughter's bad behavior, inadvertently gets herself and her grandparents stuck in Peachtree Bluff during this giant storm. And it is up to these three grown sisters, Caroline, Sloan, and Emerson, to not only rescue their family, but also to put Peachtree Bluff back together again, just in time for Christmas.
And all the traditions thereof.
It's really a roller coaster.
Well, it's definitely a page turner for sure. Absolutely. I mean, it's just, I don't know. There's something special about Peachtree Bluff. People who've read the other books, they're warm and they're inviting, in their community, and so that's what I like so much about them. I'm going to just mention real quick so that we are saving spoilers till after 7:30, though we got such a late start, it won't be hard to wait.
Sorry.
But there was such big news. But we'll save spoilers until after 7:30. But the first thing I have to ask you, and Lisa's going to watch out for live questions in the chat. Please be sure to put your live questions in because we will pull some of those. I have to tell you, we had so many advanced questions about when and what and how is the next book in the series, and I wanted to specifically say a few of them because they're really interesting. Debbie Stone asked, how likely is it that you'll add to this series with maybe some other holidays like Halloween?
And can I just add in the chat, someone says Easter. Let's do Easter in Peachtree Bluff.
And so funny because I was literally thinking Easter.
And then Mary Vasquez says, how about another book in the series in a few years, maybe for Vivi's wedding? What do you think, Christy? I mean, it just goes on and on. There's
I would have to. Yeah, that's really funny.
Be able to write all these books.
I mean, it's so funny how like you can think you're finished with something, and I will say, I mean, I think you finished The Southern Side of Paradise, and there are there are doors or windows anyway that could be reopened. There were definitely things that I left like ever so slightly unfinished. I like to tie things up with a nice bow, but there were some things that I just wasn't really sure of myself. Like I felt like I left Caroline and James's situation kind of ambiguous, and there were just a lot of situations in the book that I thought, Adam is home, but like his road to recovery is going to be really long, and what is his future? What's the future for he and Sloan, and what are they going to do next? And are they going to stay in Peachtree, or are they going to leave? And, all of that. Every sister I felt like had something. And, does Ansley's life turn out like she thinks it's going to? I mean, I think that was a big question for me too. And sometimes I like those because I think it's nice for you to be able to sort of like feel a sense of closure, but also like choose your own adventure a little bit. But when I delved back into this, fast forwarding a couple of years, I was like, wow, I really have a story to tell about each of these women. And that made it kind of interesting because when I set out to write it, I thought, well, I know I have a Caroline and James story here, and I know I have an Ansley and Jack story here, and I know I'm going to put Vivi in this story. But as I started writing, I thought, well, Emerson has this thing going on, and, Sloan has this thing going on. And so I just thought they all need to be in this story. And it really did feel like I thought, I'm going to write this Christmas book and it's going to be full of all these traditions, but in this feel good story. And you're kind of going to have this narrative arc of this hurricane, but I didn't really expect to kind of like reopen like the wounds of all of their lives, so to speak. And so after that happened, I kind of thought I got finished with it. And I literally remember I was sitting we have this window like at the top of our house, and it's like really warm. And I sit up there sometimes and I'm writing, and it was like January 7th that I was writing the end on this book. And I closed my computer and I was like, well, I know the next story. And it was just like, I just knew what the next story would be. And I remember thinking, well, I know we're working on the TV show, like maybe this would be better for the TV show. But then the more I think about it, I'm like, I don't know, like this is a Peachtree Bluff book. So, there could be another one. I mean, I don't know. I think it all just depends on, what my publishing house says. I think, the TV show would definitely play a factor in it. I think if that ends up, coming to screen like we hope it will and all of that, it would definitely be a more like logical, reasonable thing to keep this series going, because it would have kind of a renewed interest. But I think it's kind of a good idea. So I'm sort of excited about it. So yes, it could happen. It probably will not be tied to like, it probably won't be like Easter and Peachtree Bluff. It'll probably be more like,
Halloween.
What?
4th of July.
Yeah,
We've had a few votes for 4th of July.
There's always 4th of July in Peachtree Bluff, right? I mean,
yeah.
Oh my goodness. I have to mention real quick, Meg is watching, and
I was about to. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Lisa.
No, go ahead.
Well, she
We're
said,
on
I
the
love
same
all the
page.
minor characters too, such vivid depictions, and you could really picture them as part of an ensemble cast on a TV series,
Thank you,
which
Meg.
I think
Yeah.
is a
Thank
really
you.
good
Meg.
point.
Hi, Meg.
Hey,
Thank
yeah,
you.
hey, Meg.
Well, that's awesome. I definitely, they make Peachtree Bluff. I mean, our secondary characters really kind of are what make the town come to life, I think. And, and that's something else too. Like my publisher had said, like, what if you, made some of your secondaries main characters, but kind of hard for me to imagine writing Peachtree Bluff and not writing about the Murphys. Like, I know that sounds weird, but even though like I can really imagine these like very vivid backstories, like for Kimmy and Hippie Hal and Mrs. McClaskey, crazy
Hippie
Mrs.
Hal.
McClaskey.
Yes.
And, I mean, I think all of these people could have like Dan, the dock master. He knows everything that's going on in town.
That's true.
Yeah,
Oh my
I
gosh,
mean-
you will have material for years.
Well, and Anissa makes a good point in the chat. She said there are more than 20 books in the Virgin River series. Just saying.
There you go.
Just saying.
There you go.
That's
true.
funny. And it's funny though, some authors kind of keep with the same characters and progress them throughout their lives, and some kind of move around to the other
That's true.
characters. And you've got, in my unexpert opinion, of course, you've got room on both of those fronts to do some very interesting exploration. We've already had people asking about Vivi's wedding and Emerson's wedding.
know.
So,
I know. Well, and I will say, I mean, this is like a tiny bit of a spoiler, but if I do write another one, like Emerson's Wedding is definitely like would definitely be, I guess it would be like the thing that brings everyone back to Peachtree Bluff. So I can say that. I'll say that.
Yay.
And
Yay.
I can already imagine like just like the equivalent to the thing of them all running around town trying to find the right coffee. Like I already know what that would be.
Speaking of which, that is a
that.
hilarious little component of the book.
It was so funny.
Yeah, it's just so funny. And Lisa, now that I've spoiled your the comment you were gonna pull
no.
from the chat.
We're on the same page, that's all.
Oh, okay. Well, let's delve into the characters a little bit, if you don't. And it's 7:30 now, so we are clear for spoilers because a lot of things happen in this novel, and it's a very fast pace. And so, Kate Simmons Westbury in the chat says, "I have to ask, when writing Vivi's parts, did you thank your lucky stars you don't live with a teenage girl?" Fellow boy mom here, but Vivi, she is. Oh my goodness, she creates so much trouble.
I know. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, being a boy mom is so far. I mean, he's only 10, so I don't know. Like we could, No, I think there are pros and cons to everything. And I think, those teenage years are tough. And I think Vivi's going through a lot that's kind of understandable. And I think writing her point of view, made her character like come to life in a really different way for me, because I think if I was writing her just from Caroline's point of view, I would have felt a very different way about her and her behavior than writing it from her point of view too. Like I felt like I sort of understood where she was coming from, and those growing pains are part of it. And I also I loved the comparisons. I mean, because Ansley's like, hello, world's worst teenager ever. Do you like
Good point.
This is retribution. There's nothing else to this. I don't know what you expected. But I was nervous about writing her, but it wasn't something that I feel like I consciously decided. It was something that I sat down and I was writing the story and she just popped in there. And I felt, I could be I might not have gotten it right. I am the first person to say that maybe I did not get it right. But there was something I didn't think about it that much. It was I sat down and I wrote and I started writing her, and it was I just kind of could hear her voice sort of. And one thing that I always do when I'm finished writing a book is I go through and I read each character's point of view all the way through to make sure that they sound really consistent and that they sound like a distinctive, version of themselves, not somebody else. And I was thinking I'm probably going to have to do a lot of work to her. And when I got finished, I was I really feel like she sounds like a 15-year-old girl. And it was funny because there were a few things that I had to I have a 15-year-old niece, and I had to be okay, what do people call it now when you're not dating, but you're and she was oh, I was we called it talking. And she was oh no, we call that, that's what we call it too. And I was really? Score, not 100. Awesome. But things like that I was I don't know. Now I will say the one thing that I know I probably didn't get quite right, but I could not delve into the bowels of this enough to get it right, was that I feel she would have texted less with her friends and Snapchatted more, but I just couldn't go there. And I was most of my readers aren't 15, so I probably won't get a lot of letters about it.
No, I think the texting was good because honestly, most adults, when they see 15-year-olds, they just see them on the phone. They don't know if they're texting, Snapchatting, they don't know what they're doing. So that thought never crossed my mind. I thought,
okay, well, that's good.
You
that's good.
Captured the essence of a 15-year-old brat.
Well, thank you. Well,
bratty moments.
It was so funny because while I was in the revision process of the book, a lot of Will's friends have older siblings. And so a lot of times, especially in the summer, we're just all together a lot, on our real Starlight Islands, or at nighttime or whatever, we'll just kind of all be together. And I would be quizzing them okay, would this really happen? Or do you think this makes sense? And it was just hilarious. They were so cute.
Oh, that's too
research.
I know, right? Well, she definitely got into lots of trouble, but she was sympathetic because,
Oh, yeah.
you know, you could see where she was coming from on all of the issues. So that was cool.
Yeah.
I need to get to work and come up and ask one of my advanced questions. I'm sorry. Oh, this is a good one. And I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, but Edie Barton Cohen asks, you write your women characters with so much depth. How do you decide which type of men they come together with?
Oh,
Ooh,
that's
I
a
like
really
that
good
question.
I mean, I think it depends on the character. Like, I think the thing that popped into my head immediately, well, two things when I heard that question was one, Caroline is such a strong character that she needs someone who can be her adversary. Like, she could not have someone that was like, oh, you're perfect and amazing, because if she did, like, she would just run all over them. So I knew, you know, James was going to have to be like a strong character in the series. Now, not that ultimately ends up working out, but for them to even have like a fighting chance, you know. And I think whatever happens with her moving forward, like, I think like, I love Wes, and I think that was really sweet, but like, I mean, spoiler, but I don't see him as like her final destination. And that's good. I mean, you don't want to like get divorced and then like go on a date with, you know, the guy that you liked in high school and like, that's it. You know, I mean, that's great if it works out in real life, but I felt like for her, like, she needed kind of like a bridge, and he was a great like Christmas moment for her. And I don't know who she'll ultimately end up with, but for Sloane, I felt like she is the most like damaged of the characters. Like, she feels the most deeply, and she's the most sensitive. And I think her father's death affected her. Maybe not the most. I don't think that's hard. It not affected her the most, but I feel like I'm talking about real people, but I'm going to like offend. But not like it affected her the most, but it affected her in the most obvious ways, I think. And so I think, you know, Adam, that role is like the protector and someone who likes that role of taking care of people. And it's not that Sloane can't take care of herself, but that safety is something that she really craves. And even though it's kind of ironic, I felt like putting her with someone, you know, especially at the beginning, who was in the military. And she says this in the book, you know, she says that somehow being with him felt like less of a risk, because she always knew that him not being there at a moment's notice was a possibility. Whereas with her father, it was a shock. And with someone, you know, like, she knew he was putting his life on the line with what he was doing every day. And while it would tear her to pieces, like, it wouldn't be a surprise. You know, it was kind of that like weird psychology. But I mean, I definitely think about that for sure. And, you know, I felt like with Jack and Ansley, I mean, Ansley is a woman who has not been on a date in 16 years when Slightly South of Simple opened. So I think there's something, especially when you're older and you've been alone for a long time, there's something about the familiarity of someone who knows you so well that almost seems like not the only option, but like the most obvious option. And for Emerson, I mean, you know, when the phrase like someone's the gardener and someone's the flower, like, she's the flower. Like, she needs a gardener, and Kyle is a gardener. Kyle thinks she's perfect, and whatever she wants is okay, and all of her crazy whims are great, you know. So she needed someone like very chill. So yeah, I mean, I definitely like, it's funny because I'm saying it now and like it all makes sense, but I don't know that I like logically thought through that until right now. And now I'm like, oh, that's how it all kind of came together. But I think that's, you know, that's the answer to those. And that she was probably a more general question, but since we're on Peachtree Bluff, we could be specific, right?
Yeah. And that's the wonder of your craft. You did it intuitively.
Well, I would like to, there's a quote that you have at the end of the book that I absolutely loved. And I'd like to read it and then see what your inspiration was. It's, if we let them, even our largest challenges can be our greatest allies. I just love that.
Well, thank you.
What inspired that
I
quote?
mean, COVID for sure, like definitely the year that we were all living and like the moment when I was writing this book. And it was a really, really hard time. And I think, I feel like as writers and like we were so lucky to be able to kind of have this place to go and to be able to put those feelings and channel all of that like anxiety and energy into. And that was this book for me for sure. I mean, it was like going to a place where I wished we were instead of what we were really dealing with. And I think I spent a lot of time, I get like very reflective toward the end of the year. And, it was really easy to be like, 2020 was awful. Let's throw it away and like move on. But, I really started thinking about, I mean, gosh, like it feels like Falling came out, and even though it was a disaster in a lot of ways. And, we were in this pandemic and I couldn't tour and none of the pre-orders shipped and all of that. Like the book did really well and it was really well received. And we started Friends in Fiction and that was just amazing and like took over in this huge way. And even, I was really, the idea of having this really quiet holiday season was so like almost like scary is not the right word, but maybe scary. I don't know. I'm such a huge fan of tradition. So the idea of like not being with like the 23 people in my extended family for Christmas and not, doing all these things we always do was just like really terrifying to me. And then it came and we did it and it was lovely, just in a very different way. It was just a different kind of thing. And I thought a lot about that, about how, it was a year that taught us like, everything changes and we kind of have to be able to embrace it and move forward. And obviously like a lot of what changed was temporary, but some of it's permanent too. So but I was very like, I think I was very reflective on that while I was writing this book.
I loved that.
Yeah, that's so true. And
pirates, pandemic, whatever.
So, yes, Linda asked about the pirate booty in the novel and where that kind of came from, and was it in the book from the beginning?
Mm-hmm.
Was it something that came to you?
So it was one of those things that I like really debated, and I was like, I mean, can I put like pirate treasure in a book? And then I thought, it is a Christmas book. I mean, there is no such thing as you can't in a Christmas book, right? I mean, if you're ever going to do something that you're like, is that a little too cheesy? Like the Christmas book is the time, like cheese it up, But there were, there are definitely like pirate references all the way through the series. And where I live in Beaufort, and then also on the coast of Georgia, there are definitely like major links to Blackbeard the pirate and, just pirate history and lore and all of that. So I thought that would be kind of fun. I also, so the house that we live in, it was not pirate, but when we bought the house, everyone said to us, this was the house that the president of the Bank of Beaufort used to live in. And the story goes, the legend goes that he embezzled a bunch of money from the bank and he fled, but he hid the money in the walls of the house somewhere. And so we've redone this house twice. There is no money in the walls. I hate it, unfortunately. Although it was really funny because there was this one time that the first time we were redoing the house, and they had taken out the floors in the guest bedroom. And when I say they'd taken out the floors, I mean like to the ground, like you could see, grass. And there was a big cistern underneath the house where, they would have collected rainwater and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And they called me and they were like, you've got to come here. Like right now we found it. Like, we know we found it. Like this is where he would have hid the money. And so it was this huge ordeal to get this, like several 100-pound like lid off of this cistern. And, they got in there and opened it. Nah, not even in the cistern. So anyway, but it was fun. It was very dramatic.
But you had a story with your home. So
exactly. So I thought,
so cool.
Well, what would happen if, there was treasure and, what would that be? And And I liked the idea of, I felt like at this moment, all these women were going through something, and to think that like the women that came before them in their lives had like kind of faced off this big adversary like they were doing in the story, and like we were doing right now, it just kind of was like a full circle moment for them. And I don't know. It's just when they opened up those walls, I thought there's got to be something in those walls. And it was so funny because Mary Kay and I were working on these books at the same time, and she was talking about finding the wallet in the walls and how she had to put it in her book. And I was like, that's so bizarre. And I was like, fair warning, like we're opening up walls, there's pirate treasure. She was like, it's just funny how like those little things happen, that are like,
That's so funny.
It was really funny.
That is a hoot. I hadn't thought about that, but the wallet,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
I love how Vivi thought it was like a rat or something at first. And she's like, I'm like, and then lo and behold.
And Tyler comes to the rescue. He's not afraid of the rat.
Of course.
I love
not.
Tyler.
No, because he's like,
Yeah.
What a great
farm
character.
boy.
Yeah. It's kind of funny because like he sort of, it sort of reminds me of my son a little bit. Obviously he's a lot older than my son, but Will's very like, he would be like, Mom, it's just a rat. You know what I mean? Like he would like totally stick his hand back there and be like, who cares? It's not a big deal. Like he's 10 and I'm like, oh my God, there's a bug. Like you have to come get it, And like, I don't know. He's just very like adept at life. I don't know. Like he just handles things.
Well, at least you have someone to take care of those things. That's always a good thing to have.
Yeah, he'll be like, it's just a hurricane. Here's what we're gonna do. You know what I mean? It's like, okay. Like he just is very like in charge. It's like, all right.
Oh, that's funny. Anissa says little Will found the treasure and is hiding it. He needs more fishing gear.
That's probably true. Although Lord knows that child does not need any more fishing gear. I love it.
Oh, that's a
So
hoot.
funny.
We have pictures. We redid the house the first time when he was like 6 months old. And I have pictures of like my husband holding him, and they were like taking out one of the first walls that they took out, and they were like looking behind and they were like, no treasure here.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to just mention real quickly for folks who are watching, if you have any last minute questions, please put them in the chat because we only have a few minutes left with Kristy.
Oh no.
So
Oh, so
I know,
fast.
I can't even believe it.
So fast.
It's going so fast. But did want to mention that last call for questions. And I also wanted to mention, since we were talking about the sort of magic, the sort of pirates magic, Sarah Grady had submitted sort of a question in advance about your writing schedule.
Yeah.
But I wanted to share this because she says she thinks this is your best fluff book. It ebbed and flowed so beautifully, and the pacing was on point. It read so easily, so magical. To quote Sadiqa Johnson, my fingers were burning. I flew through it on Black Friday and just loved it to pieces. No pun intended.
Oh, that is adorable. Sarah, 5 stars.
I love that.
I love that.
We have several people in the chat want to know if you'll write any other Christmas books.
Oh, that's a good question. Wait, what was Sarah's question? I'm sorry. I got like so into that. Did she have a question? No, she just said.
I actually didn't read the question part of it, but it was about how your writing process for the novel was. The pace intense, or did you thrive under it? I was editing.
I definitely, I thrive under, it depends on what it is. I mean, but it was a very self-inflicted schedule. It wasn't like they said to me, oh, you have to have it turned in. And in fact, when I sent the idea, like when I sent the pitch in, I pitched this book for Christmas of 2022. And they were like, no, let's put it out 2021. And I was like, it's literally like December 20th. How are we going to put this book out? Like almost the whole staff was gone for Christmas already when I pitched the idea for the book. And I was like, how would we possibly get it out that fast? And they were like, oh, we'll get it out. It'll be fine. Don't worry. And so I was like, okay. And I thought, I'm going to write this book during the holidays. Like that was my big thing. It's like, I want to write this book during the holidays. I want to be like very like in the holidays when I write it. And so it wasn't, I didn't put myself necessarily on that tight of like a schedule. It was just like, I knew this story. I had been thinking about this story for a really long time. And so when I actually finally sat down to write it, it just came out. I mean, it was a really easy book for me to write. It was just like, and I've said this before, but I'm not a plotter at all. So I didn't really know what was going to happen. And even certain things like, I didn't know that Adam was going to tell Sloan he wanted to move. Like they were just standing at the fence and he turns around and says, I think it's time for us to move, things like that I hadn't really planned. And like, I hadn't really planned that Emerson was going to decide that she wanted to get married. Like that was not something that I really saw coming. I did know, that Caroline was going to be going through a divorce, and I did want her to find a little, Christmas fling. And I definitely, and I definitely wanted the reality of Jack and Ansley's life in this book, because I feel like until this book, it had been the idea of it. And I think especially for Jack, like, what would be really interesting, I need to write something from Jack's perspective. Because can you imagine like being single your whole life and then all of a sudden being dropped into the middle of this family? I mean, like, oh my God.
Very good point.
Your life is never yours again.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
But in a good way.
And I love the names for Grand Jack and Gransley are just precious.
Oh, thank you. Okay, I'm sorry, Lisa. I totally interrupted you because you had a question, but I thought Sarah had a question in there that I had not answered.
Oh no,
it was
no
me.
problem.
Go ahead, Lisa.
It was just, we have a couple of people wanting to know if you'll write another Christmas book.
Oh, another Christmas book. Darn it, I've got an idea for one.
She sounds not happy about that.
You heard it here.
It's not. I mean, I'm excited about the idea, but it's like it's a double-edged sword because putting out 2 books in a year was really challenging for me.
Oh, I can't even imagine.
Yeah,
and just going on 2 pretty beastie tours, and that was maybe a little bit unexpected. I mean, when I submitted this book, I thought I'll probably go on like a 10-day max tour for Christmas in Peachtree. And then it ended up being like 3.5 weeks. But then even once I was home, like I had events all the time, like around here and then the town takeover. And so it was, it was very, it was a lot of touring, which I loved the touring. But then to think like, okay, so I had just come off Under the Southern Sky a few months earlier, and then I'm turning around and going on the Wedding Veil in like 3 more months. So, it's a busy schedule, like it's a big pace to keep up, but I do have an idea for one and I like it. So I will probably write it. So yeah.
Lisa and I are thinking the same thing. We love to get scoops here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we like the scoop.
But I think, if I do write one, it will not be next Christmas. It will be the next, because I'm working on my spring book right now and I don't want to like get in the way of my spring book. So I'm going to, finish that up and then we'll see. I don't know. And gallery might say, no, we don't want you to do a Christmas book next year. I have no idea.
I feel a campaign coming on for 2022. We started a hashtag campaign for the Santa suit.
Santa suit movie now.
Hashtag Santa suit movie now.
I love that.
Well, I cannot believe it, but it is like literally 5 minutes to 8 Eastern time. Our time has just flown by tonight, but we definitely want to give Kristy time to tell us a little snippet, little preview of the Wedding Veil. But Lisa has some announcements to make before that.
All right.
Yes. So we did our big reveal during our happy hour with Ron Block. So we wanted to make sure that you guys all mark your calendars. January 24th at 7 p.m. Eastern, we will have our book club discussion of The Secret of Snow with Viola Shipman, also known as Wade. So excited. Now Brenda's like, and then on February 4th, we are going to have a special.
Sorry, late, but
Oh. On February 4th, we're going to have a special happy hour with our beloved librarian and happy hour co-host, Ron Block, and it will also coincide with the paperback release of The Kindest Lie with Nancy Johnson, and she's going to join us. And she might be doing a special giveaway on our page too, so look out for that. Then February 17th, we've got The Wedding Date with Jasmine Guillory.
Love it.
And then March 21st, we have The Soulmate Equation with Christina Warren. We are so excited.
Oh, I know. It is a packed next quarter. I know.
Wow.
Oh, so thrilling. And by the way, be sure to tune in this Wednesday night for the main Friends in Fiction page when the Fab Four welcome Maria Amparo Escandon. I hope I did that.
You did. That was perfect.
I try to spell it, you know.
Yeah.
To pronounce it.
And I'm always like, I do it to myself and I like stop and I'm like, just go with it. Just go with it. Like, don't stop. Just go. I'm bad. I'm really bad.
Well, even when you see things in writing, you don't always know how to pronounce them. Even when you're familiar with an author or whatever, you may not.
And do you know what's funny too is they're all just like words, you know, that I will say that I've like read my whole life. And I read sometime like never make fun of someone's pronunciation of something because if they say a word wrong, they learned it from reading.
They learned it from exactly.
And that's exactly right. Like you say something in your head because you've read it, but you've never said it out loud before. So I do that. There are like plenty of words that I'm like, oh, I totally said that wrong. Cool.
I do that all the time too.
I know, you know, it is evidence of being a reader because there are words that I just didn't know other than reading them.
In the book. Yeah, because like they're words that you read on a page that you would have very little like use for in real life. Like things that you just like words that are just something that you wouldn't probably just normally say, you know, in the course of conversation. And then somehow they come up and you're like, oh, I didn't say that right.
That's how to pronounce that. That's funny. Yeah. Well, Christy, before we say goodnight, we definitely want you to tell us about your upcoming novel, The Wedding Veil.
Yay! Wedding Veil.
I'm a little uptake, but I got it.
Oh my gosh! That's
I don't have mine with me.
Well, I'm really excited about this one. So The Wedding Veil comes out March 29th. It is my first historical contemporary novel, and it is about Edith and Cornelia Vanderbilt and their real life wedding veil that disappeared. And it's sort of my answer to what happened to the wedding veil is told through the eyes of a present day grandmother and granddaughter. So it's 4 different stories kind of woven together, and it was really fun. You know, it's right about the Biltmore and these amazing women and just all of them. I mean, it was great. I love writing a grandmother granddaughter story, as y'all know. So I have a mother daughter story in there and a grandmother granddaughter story in there. And doing the research was really great. And I'm really excited to share it. So it'll be fun. And the first time I'm going to talk about it is January 18th, 17th at Wild Dunes, which is really great. Yay. I'm doing a breakout session on Saturday, and I'll be doing like my full-on presentation for the wedding veil. So I'm pumped about that.
And we will be there.
And y'all will be there. Special presenters, Lisa and Brenda.
I got the Vanna White thing going, you know.
All day long, baby. All day long.
How about it?
I love it. I love it. I can't wait to see y'all. It'll be great.
Oh, I can't wait either. It's going to be so much fun. My goodness. Well, we are really looking forward to the wedding veil. I just can't wait because just the whole, I know it's going to be awesome integrating the veil story with such a rich history there with the Vanderbilts and such. So can't wait. Can't wait.
Thank you. I hope you love it. I really do. I'm excited for you to read it.
Christy, it was so much fun having you tonight. We just always have such a good time. Thank you so much for joining us and talking about Christmas at Peachtree Bluff.
Thank you. And thank you for all you do and all the time this takes. And I think people don't realize, like, it kind of looks like you pop on here for an hour, but really, like, preparing for this is a huge undertaking, and I know it, and running the page, and you guys have just, oh my gosh, I know this is not what you anticipated when you signed up for this 18 months ago, but we are very appreciative, and it's amazing. So thank you so much for all you do.
Thank you. We appreciate
Thanks.
you so much.
Y'all are the best.
We certainly do. Thanks so much, Kristy.
Good night, you guys.
Have a great
Merry
week.
Christmas.
Merry
Merry
Christmas.
holidays.